My neighbor reported me for unpermitted construction after seeing me build a shed for my dad. City inspectors shut me down. I knocked on his door and said, "You think you're clean?" Then reported his backyard pool deck. But he didn't flinch. 2 weeks later, my shed was in pieces, and there were no fingerprints. I lived just outside Sacramento, in a quiet cul-de-sac with 7 houses. Everyone mostly keeps to themselves, except Mike. He's the kind of neighbor who knows when your sprinklers go off, how many cars you own, and exactly what time your trash bins hit the curb. Last October, my dad moved in with me. He's 73, early Parkinson's, still sharp but his hands shake more now. He gets restless, especially since Mom passed. He used to spend hours in his garage back in Modesto, tinkering with fishing gear and old radios. My garage didn't have room, and I didn't want him just sitting around watching TV all day. So I decided to build a small shed out back for him. It wasn't huge, just a 10 by 12 structure, prefab walls I reinforced with extra bracing, and a pitched roof. I laid a gravel base, leveled it myself, spent 2 full weekends on it. I didn't think about the permit. Honestly, I didn't even know I needed one for something that small. It's not like I was adding a second story to my house. The shed was almost done when the city inspectors showed up. They knocked on my front door around 10 a.m. on a Tuesday. 2 of them. One younger guy who looked bored, and an older guy who acted like I'd built a secret meth lab. He had a printed report with photos, my shed, taken from the side angle, just above the fence line. Someone reported new construction activity with structural framing, and included pictures. I asked them who sent the report. They said it was anonymous. But I knew. The only house with a second-floor window that faced my backyard was Mike's. Mike was retired from somewhere. I think engineering. He kept binoculars in the window. Once, I saw him pointing them at a hawk in the trees. Or maybe at my yard. Hard to say. Anyway, the city said the shed violated setback rules and needed a permit. Without one, I had to stop work and possibly tear it down. They gave me a warning and a deadline. If I didn't fix it or apply for the permit, I'd start getting fined. I stood in my backyard that afternoon, staring at the shed. My dad came out with his coffee and saw the red notice taped to the frame. His face kind of dropped. "Guess I'll go back to the garage couch," he mumbled. That night, I walked over to Mike's house. He answered the door like he already knew why I was there. Didn't even pretend to act surprised. Just leaned against the frame with that smug look. "You could have just talked to me," I said. "If it's not legal, it shouldn't be there," he replied. That pissed me off. The guy had a massive raised pool deck in his yard. He built it during COVID, summer of 2021. Brought in a crew, did all kinds of trenching and wiring. I never saw a permit posted. So I filed a report. I took photos from the side street where you can see into his yard between 2 fences. You could see the lights wired into the deck, the stairs, the privacy wall. I submitted everything to the city anonymously. It felt fair. He played that game first. But Mike didn't react. He didn't come over, didn't say a word. Just kept mowing his lawn every Tuesday like clockwork. Waved at me once while I was putting out recycling. I didn't wave back. 2 weeks later, it happened. I came out around 7 a.m. on a Saturday to check on the shed. My dad had been talking about organizing his tackle boxes in there that morning. What I found stopped me cold. The shed was wrecked. Not collapsed, wrecked. One wall had been kicked inward, splintered near the base. The roof was peeled up on one side like someone had grabbed it and yanked hard. The door was hanging off its hinges, and inside, the workbench I'd built for my dad was smashed in 2. His old tackle box was upside down, lures scattered in the dirt. There was no wind. No storm. The sky had been clear all week. The police came and looked around. No fingerprints. No shoe prints, nothing obvious. They said maybe local kids did it. Maybe someone saw it was half-built and thought it was abandoned. I knew that was bullshit. It was personal. Someone knew what that shed was for. Knew it mattered to me. Someone wanted me to feel it. And Mike? He just waved at me again on Monday. Same smile. Same routine. I didn't wave back. After the cops left, I just stood there in the yard for a while. My dad came outside, looked at the mess, and didn't say anything. He just walked back inside without a word. That part got to me more than anything. I started cleaning it up the next day. Not rebuilding. Just clearing the wreckage. As I was stacking the broken wood in the corner of the yard, I noticed something weird. A single screw, stuck upright in the dirt near the edge of the gravel. Brand new. Not from my shed. Different type of threading. It was small, but it felt like a message. I didn't go back to Mike's door. I didn't say a word. Instead, I started watching him. Not every second of the day, but enough. I kept a log, when he left, when he watered his lawn, when his landscaper came. And when his lights were on late. Then one night, about a week after the shed was wrecked, I heard something. Around 2 a.m. loud enough to make me sit up in bed. Not quite a bang, more like a heavy metallic thud. I looked out the back window. Nothing in my yard. But Mike's motion light was on. Just for a second. I crept outside. I didn't go all the way over, just close enough to hear. Silence. But I could smell something, chemical. Maybe paint? Or fuel? The next morning, I walked around to the side fence between our properties. There were black marks on the grass, like something had been dragged. Fresh ones. And behind Mike's shed, his own, older one, where he kept yard stuff, I saw a shovel leaning against the back wall. Dirt still on it. I didn't have proof. But my gut told me he wasn't done yet. I decided I wasn't going to play fair anymore. There's a guy I used to work with, Darren. He got into private security after we both left our old warehouse job. Nothing official, but he knows cameras, knows tricks. I asked him for a favor. We set up a small trail cam, disguised inside a busted sprinkler head in the corner of my yard. It faced the back fence, just enough to catch any movement in or out. It ran on motion. Quiet, small. Nobody would see it unless they knew exactly what to look for. And then I waited. Nothing happened for 4 nights. Then, on the 5th night, I got the alert. 1:44 a.m. movement detected. I checked the footage. It was dark, but the infrared showed enough. A figure came over the fence, slow, careful. Hoodie, gloves, something in his hand that looked like a crowbar. He walked straight toward where the shed had been. Then he stopped. Stared at the cleared space. Took a few steps around, like he was looking for something. Then he crouched down near the gravel. Stayed there for a minute. I couldn't see what he was doing, but he was clearly focused. Then he stood up, turned, and went back over the fence. I didn't sleep the rest of the night. The next morning, I walked to that exact spot. Right where he'd crouched. There was a dead squirrel. Gutted. Laid out like a warning. It hadn't been there the day before. This wasn't just about permits anymore. This was a message. I didn't tell the police. What was I going to say? My neighbors sneaking into my yard at night and leaving dead animals? With no clear ID, no prints, no direct evidence tying it to Mike, they'd just tell me to put up a fence and move on. But I wasn't moving on. Not after that. The next day, I called Darren again. Asked him if he could set up a second camera. This time I wanted it facing outward, toward Mike's yard. High up, hidden in the overhang of my roof, pointed just right. He came by that afternoon and got it mounted. We synced both feeds to my phone. Then I went silent. No eye contact. No complaints. No trash talk. I waved at him when he waved. Kept my lawn clean. I acted like nothing had happened. That was the hardest part, pretending I didn't care. Pretending the dead squirrel hadn't happened. Pretending like I hadn't spent hours thinking about what he might do next. A week passed. Nothing. Then 10 days. Still nothing. Just when I started to wonder if maybe he'd backed off, something changed. Friday night. 11:22 p.m. Both cameras picked it up this time. Someone in dark clothes, same build as before, came into my yard again. But this time, he wasn't alone. There were two of them. One waited by the fence. The other went to the side of my house. Not the back. The side. Toward the garage. That's where my dad keeps his things now. His rods. His boxes. The few old keepsakes he still organizes every weekend. That garage means something to him. The figure got close to the door, crouched, and pulled something out of a backpack. I saw the glint of a tool, maybe a crowbar, maybe something else. He started working the door. Quiet. Focused. Like he'd done it before. I hit record on both cameras. Called Darren. Put on my shoes. And then I heard it. A loud snap. The kind of sound a cheap lock makes when it breaks. I grabbed a flashlight, opened the back door, and hit the floodlight. The second guy bolted immediately, back over the fence. But the one by the garage? He froze for a split second. Just enough. That's when I saw his face. It wasn't Mike. It was his son. Troy. He'd moved back in 6 months ago after losing his job in Nevada. Never said much. Mid-20s, tattoos on his neck, always looked like he hadn't slept. I'd seen him maybe 3 times. I didn't even know they were close. But it was definitely him. He took off a second later, but the camera got it all. His face. The tools. Everything. Now I had proof. But I didn't go to the police. Not yet. Because now, I understood something. Mike didn't just report me. He set things in motion. Quietly. Through his son. He wanted to stay clean while someone else got their hands dirty. So I decided I'd do the same thing. I didn't sleep that night. I sat at the kitchen table with both camera feeds saved to a flash drive. I watched the part with Troy at least 5 times. Every time, I caught a new detail. His hesitation, the way he looked back at the fence, the way he paused when the lock broke. He wasn't doing it for fun. He looked nervous. Like he didn't really want to be there. That's when it hit me, Troy wasn't the mastermind. Mike was. The next morning, I went for a walk. Not far. Just down the street, past the mailbox cluster, out to the corner where a couple of the retired neighbors sit around in folding chairs every Saturday. I stopped and chatted like I usually don't. Hey, you ever notice Mike doing construction during lockdown? I asked, casually. Old Frank, 2 houses over, looked up from his coffee. You mean that pool thing he built? Sure. He had some guys digging in his yard for like 3 weeks. Why? I shrugged. Just wondering if he ever had inspectors come by. Frank chuckled. Not a chance. He did that all on his own. Said the city was too backed up to care. That was all I needed. I called a local permit researcher. Paid him cash to dig through city records. 2 days later, I got the email, no permit on file for Mike's pool deck. None. Not for electrical work. Not for plumbing. Not for the trenching. Nothing. I now had 2 weapons, proof that Troy broke into my property, and that Mike had been hiding a major unpermitted structure for over 2 years. But still, I didn't report them. I wasn't interested in revenge through paperwork anymore. I wanted them to feel it. So I waited until a Saturday morning. Around 9 a.m., I walked across the street while Mike was watering his front lawn. I had a manila envelope in my hand. He saw me coming and straightened up. Morning, I said, calm. He nodded. Morning. I held the envelope out. Thought you might want to see this. He took it without looking, slowly opened it. Inside, printouts of the security footage. Troy breaking in. Troy at my garage. The still frames with timestamps. Mike looked up at me. His face didn't move. You're not going to the cops? He asked. I shook my head. Nope. Then I pulled a second envelope from my jacket pocket. Thinner. One piece of paper. It was the permit report, showing he'd never filed for the deck. I handed that one over too. This stays quiet, I said. You fix what your son broke. Every bit of it. You keep your yard to yourself. And I don't send either of these to the city. He looked at the paper. His face finally twitched. You're blackmailing me, he said. I nodded. No. I'm giving you a chance to do the right thing. That afternoon, Troy knocked on my door. Didn't look me in the eye. I'll fix it, he said. Everything. He worked for a week, rebuilding the shed, replacing what he smashed, sanding and sealing the new workbench. He didn't speak much, just worked. My dad didn't say anything either, but he watched from the porch every day. On the 7th day, it was finished. Troy left without a word. I thought that was it. Thought it was over. Until 3 days later. I got home from work, stepped into the garage, and saw my dad's fishing rods, snapped in half. Every single one. And written in permanent marker on the workbench, "You think this is done?" It wasn't Troy's handwriting. It was sharper. Neater. Older. It was Mike. I just stood there in the garage, staring at the message on the bench. It wasn't even the words. It was how clean they were. Like he took his time writing it. Like he wanted me to know he wasn't scared. That this wasn't over, not even close. My dad came out a minute later, saw the rods. He didn't say anything at first. Just picked one up, held it in both hands, then let it drop. These were my father's, he said. Quiet. No anger, just tired. I felt something in my chest. Not rage. Not sadness. Just this cold, steady pressure. Like I was standing at the edge of something deep, and the only thing I could do was lean forward. I walked out the front door, across the lawn, and straight to Mike's house. I didn't knock this time. I pounded. He opened it like he'd been waiting again. Same calm face. Same quiet stare. You come into my house now? I said. He didn't deny it. He just said, you started this. You reported me over a shed. You broke into my life, he said. My home. My son. That stopped me. I didn't break in, I said. I caught him. I gave you a way out. You chose this. He shook his head slowly. You embarrassed my family. You made my son into a criminal. He is a criminal. Then he leaned in, real close. His voice dropped. Nothing about your little shed matters. Nothing. You live in my cul-de-sac, you live by my rules. You didn't ask. You didn't respect the lines. The lines? I laughed. There were no lines until you made them. He didn't answer. Just closed the door slowly in my face. That night, I didn't sleep. Neither did my dad. I found him in the garage at 3 a.m. Sweeping up rod fragments like they were glass. I should have stayed in Modesto, he muttered. I didn't argue. Instead, I made one more call. Not to the cops. Not to the city. To Troy. I still had his number from when he came by to fix the shed. He didn't answer the first time. But I texted him something simple, your dad crossed the line. This ends now, or I go public. 10 minutes later, he called. His voice was quiet. Tired. What do you want? He asked. I want him to stop. He won't. Then I want him gone. There was silence. I can't make him leave. Then help me shut him up. Another pause. I have something, he said. Something I wasn't supposed to see. What? He's hiding more than that pool deck. I sat up straighter. Like what? You ever see that trench he dug last year? Yeah. It's not for drainage. Then what is it? He exhaled, long and shaky. It's wired into the neighbor's power grid. He's been stealing electricity for months. I blinked. That's illegal. Yeah, Troy said. And I have pictures. Now we had leverage. Real leverage. But using it would be a risk. Because the second Mike knew what we had, he'd stop playing quiet. And he'd start playing for keeps. I never did turn in the photos. They're still sitting in a folder on my desktop. I thought having that proof would make me feel safe, but honestly, it just made me more tired. Every time I see Mike out there, watering his lawn like nothing ever happened, I wonder if he's waiting for me to make the next move. Maybe that's how people like him win, by making you live in the mess they started. I fixed the shed. I replaced my dad's rods. But the worst part? I still check the backyard every night, even when I know there's nothing out there. And I still whisper to myself, just leave us alone.